Kondile is making waves in the print media space. His passion for indigenous language led him to establish the Isigidimi Newspaper. The paper's aim is to encourage readers to read in isiXhosa. Recently, he received a Young Creative Award from the British Consul, and Unathi joins us in our Cape Town studios. Good to have you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your award. I mean, this is fantastic. I imagine it's going to help you quite a bit in your career going forward.
I'm also hoping so, Leanne.
Tell me about this award. What's it all about?
It's the British Council's Young Creative Entrepreneur Award, which was launched in 2013. Yeah. So it's an initiative where they sort of connect people from Africa, with other entrepreneurs in the UK. And I entered the culture category for the Young Creative Entrepreneur Award. Yeah. And I so happened to win that. So there's going to be a summit in London where we're going to attend and get to network with other young entrepreneurs from across the world who are doing similar or, culture-related projects. And I'm hoping to learn from that experience.
Good. Well, we wish you the best of luck. I hope it goes well. Let's talk about the newspaper and how you sort of established it. What led you to establish it?
I'd been toying around with a lot of isiXhosa on social networks, Twitter particularly, and then after completing my master's degree, I'd always wanted to do a PhD around transforming the media in South Africa. But I realized that we couldn't transform it by just using race. Perhaps something like language could work better. So I did a bit of research at the University of Cape Town, sort of trying to find what we could re-establish from the past that could speak to, creating a new newspaper or new newspapers in indigenous languages. And I found Isigidimi Newspaper, which was produced in Lovedale in the 1800s. And I went through old copies of that and found that the content still speaks to today. And having found that, I sort of decided to re-establish it in 2012, the 1st of August. And we sort of did a trial run, a print run of 5,000 in August 2012. But then the demand sort of grew, and in September we did again print, and we continued printing monthly, as well as then establishing a website and a digital presence, all in isiXhosa. So we're there. I'm technically still planning to do the PhD around this paper, but for now I am focusing on producing the actual newspaper.
Awesome. What's the response to the newspaper? I mean, so many people say that print media is dead. Or it's a dying form of media. What's your evaluation of it after launching this newspaper?
The reception has been positive. I think verbal is always positive. It doesn't necessarily translate to people taking the action and taking part, but it's been very positive. People have been demanding the paper, particularly in rural areas and in schools and places that are predominantly Xhosa, orientated. So we've been working around those markets, and the idea that print media is on the decline is correct. It's in the decline in terms of English media because there's so much other avenues to consume news, if you are an English reader or any other language. But for indigenous languages, there's still, a very, empty space there where we can create more content. I mean, other newspapers in isiZulu are doing quite well across the country. And I think there's no national newspaper in South Africa. So there's a space there, and we need to explore that before we block ourselves by saying that print is dying. Yeah. So I'm hoping to take advantage of that particular space and to also see more vernacular newspapers. I'd like to see a Venda one or a Tswana one. But,
excellent.
There's room for us to play. There are markets there that can be explored.
What about vernacular magazines, going that route? I mean, for young entrepreneurs that are out there that are looking at you and thinking, listen, if you can do this, I'm sure I can do this in my language. You think there's a gap, there is a place for this?
There is. It all depends on the research that a person does. I mean, it's no use creating a vernacular magazine or a vernacular newspaper if you're going to translate what's going on in the Sunday Times or what's going on in the Mail and Guardian. You might as well not do it. You need to first understand who you're producing this product for. So if you're going to do it for a rural or a township market, you need to actually spend time in those areas and understand what their concerns are, understand that it's not e-tolls, understand that youth culture differs in the rural areas. And so you would have to do research in terms of the people who actually speak this language and where they are based, so that you create a product in vernacular that will actually speak to the people that you want to sell your product to. And I guess that's to a large part what we are doing, and I would hope that any young entrepreneur who wants to work in that space of our languages would seriously consider doing research and not just doing it from the cities and producing a magazine and hoping that the same youth culture that exists in Braamfontein or somewhere will become successful in Ndani, you know.
Well, you know something about magazines. You were one of the co-founders as well of the Science Stars magazine. Just very quickly, we've run out of time. I've got to wrap this, but what is that?
Science Stars is a magazine that we sort of founded in 2010, but it took a while to sort of get up because we were trying to find an avenue in which we could create a science magazine which could speak to people who live in rural areas and young people in particular, because I loved maths and science at school. It's just a pity that it changed at university and became theory. But maths and science is something that can be translated and simplified. We were trying to find role models who come from rural areas, as well as, you know, find teachers who can explain these concepts better, even if it's in vernacular or in English, so that at least these things become much more accessible for the young learner who gets confronted by these daunting terms that are normally used in scientific textbooks and maths, you know, literature. So that magazine catered specifically for that, and it still exists. We just printed our latest edition, and it goes out to rural areas as well as townships, and some schools order that through the Department of Science and Technology.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking to us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, it's just so nice to speak to the hungry guys out there, these entrepreneurs that are making such a huge difference. And Unathi Kondile is one of them, scooping awards everywhere we look. And the Young Creative Award from the British Council is the latest one that he has received. Enjoy your trip to London. Come back, tell us what it was like while you were there, all right?
Thank you.
All right. Let's take a break. When we